Eyal Baruch Levi B here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited to be sharing with you more conversations around my really two passions professionally in this lifetime, which are three passions, but the two in this project are um, the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who I've mentioned many times before, author of Man's Search for Meaning and 33, I believe, other books. But Man's Search for Meaning has been named as the 10 most important books of all time by the Library of Congress. So you must read this book. And his work is not only theoretical, it's an example of what's possible out of the deepest, darkest, most difficult moments of our lives. Can we discover meaning, purpose? Can we discover what he calls the nous, or our spirit, and access that defiant power of spirit? And we can. It's a choice. And that's ultimately the thesis of this man in his work. Logotherapy is meaning-centered therapy, but also living. And so it's really built around this idea that we must choose to access the defiant spirit and to live it, to defy our circumstances. How do we do that? You know, this is the work I do with clients as a logotherapist and as a guide. How? Not just great theory. Read this book and you will be inspired. Man's Search for Meaning. But God willing, you'll never be in the Holocaust. God willing, you'll never know those extreme circumstances. I get people saying to me all the time, B, I'd work with you, but I'm not really going through anything. Well, we're always going through something. It may not be life's ultimate darkness, but every single day we come up against circumstances and we feel either confused or we feel powerless to change those circumstances, because ultimately we are 100% powerless to change our circumstances. According to Frankl, all we can do is change ourselves, change our response, stop reacting, as he would say, and start responding. That's the work. Right? And that presents itself to us in small ways and in macro, massive ways, and everything in between. And so we're here to defy our circumstances and to live our defiant power of the human spirit, which is ours, says Frankl, until our dying breath, final breath in this lifetime. Until then, you have the ability to choose how to respond. But how do I do this? That's why I've brought together the Enneagram with Dr. Frankl's work, merging them in this Defiant Spirit Enneagram. It's a new offering that I have. You can take the Enneagram, you can get an assessment of the type of, and we'll talk about this, the way you react, because you're not your number. We're going to talk a lot about that. You just react as a number. I react as an Enneagram 8. You might react as an Enneagram 2, but it isn't that you are a 2. It isn't that you are a 9. I can't say this strongly enough. Yes, it's a personality typing system, but that's only the starting point. And unfortunately, too many Enneagram teachers and assessments out there put you in a box, put this label of your Enneagram type on you, and now it's one more label, one more limit, or I would say one more prison that we are now incarcerated within. That can't be, that must not be the point of the Enneagram. I wouldn't teach it if it was. The work of Dr. Frankl always says we are more than a number. We are the defiant power of spirit. Now, what the Enneagram allows us to do is to see how we react. So one of Dr. Frankl's most famous quotes is really the foundation of the Defiant Spirit Enneagram, which is my creation. I'm going to actually share. I'm very excited that I'm really launching this and working with people now on my Enneagram system, because I couldn't find, there's some great ones out there and I draw from them and I refer people to them for the assessing, for the testing. But I couldn't find one that spoke completely to me. And this power, this defiant power of the spirit, and using the Enneagram, because that's all it is. It's a tool, it's a system to take us into Frankl's idea of the following. Between stimulus and response, writes Frankl, there is a space. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our happiness. So what the Defiant Spirit Enneagram is all about is the space. I love the work of Frankl. I love being a logotherapist. I love almost everything about it. I do feel it doesn't have enough how. It doesn't have enough tools. It doesn't have enough strategies. It's great macro. It's great big picture. I think by design, he really conceived of logotherapy as part and parcel of any system, whether it's a psychotherapeutic system, a healing system. And so that's the beauty of logotherapy, is that it really does fit onto any system. It fits onto religion. It fits onto secular different ways of living and being in the world. But there's not a lot of hows. And that's where I go to the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a master system of how. So you can see on the handy dandy Enneagram, that's my Enneagram that I created. And it's based on the traditional Enneagram, but obviously with my own take on it. And so there are 9 basic energies or personalities. I would say there are 9 different ways we react, back to Frankl. And this is what I teach people. You have your particular reaction pattern, and that's where the Enneagram comes in. So I react like an Enneagram 8, called the challenger, right? On a good day, I'm challenging. On a bad day, Ariella would say I'm an 8-hole. So depends when you catch me, but I've done a lot of work to rise up from being an 8-hole to being a challenger. But I have access to other places on the Enneagram connected by lines, which isn't in this particular graph. So I use the Enneagram to see, back to Frankl, between stimulus and response, there is a space. The Enneagram is the space. Something happens to me, B, as an 8, and I react. Now, if I don't have that space, if I don't have that pause, if I don't have this system in place and I'm not conscious, I'll go on to autopilot. I'll go into fight mode, right? We go to fight, freeze, or flight. 8s come out fighting. And I've done a lot of damage to others, to systems, to organizations, to myself when I don't follow Dr. Frankl's advice and find my space between stimulus and response. There is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our response. There it is, in a nutshell. You want to take back power in your life, authentic power, then stop reacting. Stop allowing circumstances to dictate how you react. Instead, find space. Now, some people have religion, spiritual practice. They have all kinds of techniques and tools and strategies. I turn to the Enneagram. The Enneagram really shows me my roadmap of reaction and what happens as an 8, and then where I need to go to where I do naturally go in reaction. I go down to the 5. That's the line. Next time I'm going to put up here the Enneagram with all the line connections. I go from the 8 to the 5 very quickly. And I react, and I go into this place of kind of brooding and plotting and, almost a revenge kind of a place. Now, with the help of the Enneagram, I realize that. And instead, I can shift my energy over to the 2, and I can connect. The 2 is the helper. It's relationship oriented. So as an 8, when I'm in reaction, it's solo, right? I'm a fighter pilot. But life isn't meant to be lived solo. And when I'm flying solo, things are usually not going so well. When I'm in partnership with Ariella or with friends or with community, with organizations, I'm at my best. So I have to shift my energy back over to helping. This is my reaction pattern. Again, only unique to me as an 8 and my particular patterns within 8ness. But the bottom line is it's the space between stimulus and response. Each of us reacts differently. And why this is so important is because if we don't have that space, however you find it, and I find it now very specifically, pointedly in the Enneagram, then we just live our lives in reaction like animals. Stimulus happens and we react. We think we're responding. I thought I was responding for a very long time when there's injustice in the world and my 8ness kicks in. And I thought, I'm fighting the good fight and that's who I am. A lot of those were not my fights. A lot of those are just me being dragged into a fight. And I've had to do a lot of work on myself, thanks to the Enneagram, of saying, this is my anger kind of boiling up. And before I act on it, ready, fire, aim, I need to go down into the 5, the investigator, the thinker, and really think it through. Is this my fight? So it's given me a space to breathe, to break the reaction, and then to decide and choose. And if I take on the fight, then it's from a place of response. But if I don't, and I feel like it's just reaction, then I can choose a different way. And that is why we are here. That is mastery. That is power. To choose whether or not you want to follow a particular stimulus, a particular circumstance, a particular situation. But if you don't think about it and you just jump in or you're dragged in, who's really in charge? Who's truly the one with the power? It's not you. And that's what it means to be a victim, right? A victim is somebody who's powerless, and we are all victims at times. The world, others will victimize us. There's no way around it. The question becomes, according to Edith Eger, a student of Dr. Frankl's and an amazing human being and psychologist, and also a survivor of the Holocaust. In one of her books, she says the difference between being a victim and being the difference between being a victim and being a survivor is victims say, why me? Which you can't answer. And survivors say, now what? Which you can answer. It means they take back their power. They decide which direction they want to go. And she also says that's the difference between being a victim and taking up residence in the neighborhood of being a victim, or the victimhood. Victimhood is constantly and continuously feeling like you are living in reaction, that you are a victim of your circumstances, that you have no autonomy, agency, power, control. But being powerful means that you have a response. At the very least, you get to respond by choosing your attitude. Maybe you can't change your circumstances, but you can change your response to your circumstances. This is the space between stimulus and response, and this is the Defiant Spirit Enneagram. So this is the work that I'm doing. I would love to hear from you. If you're an Enneagram type, I would love to hear the ways you react. Again, it's not that you are a 4, it's that you react like a 4. I would love to hear the ways how you respond as a 4, but also how you've broken free from being that 4, being trapped as a 4, found your space, found your pathways, so you get to respond like any of these types because they're all within you. That's the teaching of Kabbalah. There's not 9 types. Actually, there's 10 according to Kabbalah, 10 Sphirot, 10 energies, 10 Enneagram types. And the final one is the circle around all of them. That is the 10th. And it encompasses all of those energies that are within us, within you, within me. When we react is one of them. When we respond, we can choose all 9, or living in that place of the 10th. So that's the work. That's the space. That's the Defiant Spirit Enneagram. Learn how to go into that space, to take back the power of your space, to expand your space so that when you come out, you're not reacting to your stimulus, you're responding to your life. Shoot me an email, be at mysoulcenter.org. Jump over to mysoulcenter.org and check out all the things Ariella and I are doing. We would love to hear from you. Until we talk, until we meet, keep calling upon the defiant power of your spirit. Shalom, salam, namaste, peace.